Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SUMP training program, Module 5 workshop that will be about engaging stakeholders in planning mobility measures and in the SUMP process. My name is Ira Sibelius, and I represent the UBC Sustainable Cities Commission, hosted by the city of Turku in Finland, and we are the lead partner of the SUMPs for VSR project that is organizing this training program. And the project has received co-funding from the Indirect Baltic Sea Region program. In the SUMPs for VSR project, we have been supporting small and mid-sized cities in sustainable urban mobility planning, encouraging a shift towards active mobility, enhanced data collection, and better monitoring and evaluation processes for SUMP. And you can read more about our project activities on the project webpage. This workshop is the last training event in our 5-module 10-event training program on different aspects of SUMP. And we have been constantly updating the training materials, including all the recordings from the events for self-study at the Baltic Sea Region SUMP Competence Center. So go there to check out the previous training materials. And I want to warmly welcome you all to our final conference that is organized together with another Indirect Baltic Sea Region project, BADS. And this Baltic Active Mobility 2026 conference will focus on active mobility and SUMP topics and will be a great opportunity to meet other colleagues from around the Baltic Sea region and learn from other cities' experience. It will be organized on 8th and 9th of September in Gdynia in Poland, and we will also organize the UBC Sustainable Cities Commission meeting back-to-back to the conference on 7th of September. The full program has been published and the registration is open, so secure your spot, and we hope to see many of you to join us in Gdynia. And now let's take a brief overview of the agenda for today. Shortly, we will hear 2 interesting cases on engaging decision makers in the SUMP process from City of Gdynia and citizens in the SUMP implementation in City of Turku. And then we will be briefed into today's challenge that is about setting up a SUMP advocacy plan, and we'll be working together in smaller groups. And then we have a short break, and then we will have a sharing round for results from the breakout rooms or insights from the breakout rooms. And finally, one more presentation about a great source for inspiration and practical tips on finding the most suitable formats and methods for stakeholder engagement. That's about the agenda. And I'd like to remind you that we will record the main room to be able to share the presentations at the Competence Center. And if you have any questions for our speakers, you can ask them by raising your hand or sending your questions through the chat box. But now we will move on with the agenda, and we will have our first speaker from City of Gdynia, Poland. We have Justyna Suchanek, who is a senior specialist at Gdynia City Hall. And Justyna is currently working on the Gdynia's SUMP update process, and she will share with us how decision makers have been engaged in this process. So over to you, Justyna.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justyna Suchanek, and I work in the Traffic and Mobility Unit in the city of Gdynia in Poland. And today I would like to share some practical experiences connected with engaging decision makers during our SUMP update process. And in our case, sustainable mobility required cooperation between many different actors. Political leadership, departments, councillors, district councils, public transport operators, and also the residents. And over time, we saw that building understanding inside the administration part was just as important as public consultation. So today I will focus mainly on this internal and also the institutional side of our engagement in SUMP update. At the beginning of the SUMP update process, we quickly noticed how many different areas mobility decisions affect inside the city. It's transport, investments, public space, budgets, greenery, daily operations, and also the public expectations. What is important? As you remember, Gdynia is a medium-sized port city with strong car pressure and limited public space in the city center. At the same time, responsibilities are divided between many departments and institutions. So even relatively small mobility decisions often require coordination between these actors. For example, when we introduce bus lanes, public transport priorities, street space reallocations, or changes around transport hubs. And in practice, our technical arguments alone were usually not enough for every group of our stakeholders in the city. We had also data, but data remained important, of course, but many discussions depended more on institutional priorities, political sensitivity, and everyday operational concerns. And this made our communication in the city and internal understanding very important for us. One of our biggest lessons from our SUMP update, because we are still in the process, was understanding that different stakeholder groups need different forms of engagement. We had the political leadership, and they focused mainly on strategic consequences, maybe investment priorities, some risks. We had also the councillors and district representatives, and were often more focused on local impacts and resident concerns. We had also the departments, and they needed coordination, operational clarity, some realistic implementation discussions, and the last but not least group, it's residents, and residents wanted understandable information and visible examples, easy, simple language for our transport communication. And also with residents, we're talking about emotions, about fears, not only about the technical needs or some data. So we adjusted our communication methods to these different needs. For us in Gdynia, the stakeholder pyramid became a useful way of organizing this process communication. And we also learned that external engagement works much better when there is already some internal understanding and support inside the administration process. At some point, we also changed the way we talk about mobility internally. Technical indicators remained important. It's not easy to talk and use simple language when we do something for the city and we are the specialist. But they were usually not the best starting point for discussion. Questions connected with travel time, accessibility, safety, public space quality, or investment consequences help start conversations much more effectively. We also try to explain maybe mobility in less technical language. For example, instead of starting with modal split indicators, every city, every mobility specialist like it, but we often started with practical questions like that. What problem are we solving? Who benefits from this? And what changes in everyday life? What happens if we do nothing with this situation? And I think this approach that maybe some we had in our city helped involve people who normally don't work directly with mobility planning, understanding a lot of information about the city. And we try, it's still trying. We also organized more interdisciplinary meetings and workshops and try to build some stronger cooperation between departments. And I think this is the hardest part in the city. One important example for us was main Constitution Square and the area around Gdynia Główna railway station. And this is the main transport gateway of the city and also a very sensitive public space. And the discussion around this area included parking, included pedestrian movement, greenery, traffic organization, public transport, and also the future image of the city center. During the process, we collected almost the 700 survey responses and more than 150 comments during consultation activities and information points. And we also organized consultations in 6 locations during European Mobility Week last year. And one thing that helped a lot was visualization about the place. We prepared, as you know, a 3D fly through visualization showing and a movie, a future concept for this area. And this changed the quality of discussion with residents and with tourists. Many important discussions also happened inside City Hall. Different departments look at the same space, but from very different perspectives. Transport department focused on movement and traffic flow. Planning looked at spatial structure. Greenery department focused on quality of our environmental. Finance focused on costs and budgets, and accessibility specialists focused on inclusive design, and political leadership also had the public reaction and investment priorities. So coordination required many repeated discussions and a lot of patience with the process that we had in our SUMP update. In practice, many conversations in the city were connected with balancing different needs inside limited public space. This was especially visible in discussions connected with transport hubs, public transport priority, and public transport redesign also. And visualization that I talked earlier and visible examples became very useful engagement tools for us that we combine with discussion, data, visualization, and normal questions and normal discussion. We used also surveys. We have transport studies, activities that we have about the sustainable mobilities in the city, AI camera monitoring from our pilot, from our SUMPs for BSR projects, visualizations before and after concepts, interactive information points, and many consultation meetings. It's not maybe enough, but we try to do a lot of things about also the being in the public space and talking with people. And we also organize workshop connected with bus lane strategy discussions and interdisciplinary working groups. And the next one, over time, we started noticing some small but important changes that regular communication helped improve cooperation between departments. but sometimes we have progress and sometimes we have regress about it. Resident feedback started appearing more often in internal discussions. Support also from European Union projects also helped mobility discussions inside the administration. We also saw more openness toward multimodal thinking and public transport priority. At the same time, many challenges still remain because the political pressure, competing priorities, resource limitations, still part of the process. So I think it's the finalization of my presentation that what did we learn from this process? And I think first and the most important, internal engagement is just as important as public consultation. Second, language and framing matter a lot. Technical data alone rarely creates support. Visualization also helps reduce fear and because people can react to something concrete and also the decision makers. And we also learned that interdisciplinary cooperation is absolutely necessary in this process. And talking with different groups of stakeholders and still engaged the part of the political decision makers. It's still important. And trust usually develops through repeated cooperation and visible results. And I think another important lesson was that engagement works best when it's continuous and connected with everyday work inside the administration. And finally, I think we started seeing SUMP, our document, less as a transport document and more as a tool supporting cooperation and long-term decision making, not only for 5 years and the political part, but also for long-term decision making. And this is our to finish. I would like to share a few practical recommendations for other cities, but I think this is the similar that the last slide, but in different way, like the start building internal involve decision makers before projects become politically sensitive. Don't focus only on one department. Use clear language, not only for residents, but also for decision makers. And I think give people something concrete to react. It's small conversation, shared understanding, smiling, the positive emotion about your role in the city, and more than one formal presentation on one consultation event. And you must focus about the connection between the different parts of stakeholders and talking not only with the one group, but with the you have to talk from decision makers to residents about the sustainable mobility in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justyna. Thank you for sharing the lessons learned and all the tips for us others. It's a good opportunity to ask questions. There is some time for that. So are there any questions for Justyna or any comments?
May I?
Yes.
Justyna, hi. Just to check, did you have some, I don't know, assigned person who works only on engagement, or did you do it all by yourself? I mean, internal professionals team, we also did this engagement process.
Now we did it in our department, in the mobility department unit, sorry, and we do it internally.
Which is very inspiring, but at the same time, maybe participants would like to hear, can you estimate, is it like, I don't know, 2 hours per day of person work, or I don't know, half day, or is it full time work for somebody?
It's it's not easy to use it our time for the consultations in public space. I think this is the hardest part because but when we try to work with external experts or something like that, I think it's not it's not the good point because we've had some problem with it's some the specific details that we know in the city, but it's difficult to like the difficult to cooperate with something with somebody not from the city hall for me
I see your
personally.
point. That's, we also keep saying don't commission too much to external experts because they might not to know all the kitchen.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the details about the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And especially like concerning the decision makers engagement, I think that's like super important that you know best what are the tricks within the city. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Justyna, for this one.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any questions coming up. Thank you, Justyna, for a great presentation again. And we will move to a next one. But we will move to our next speaker, who is Anna-Kaisa Montonen from City of Turku. She's a urban mobility specialist, and recently she has been working in projects like the School Hoods Urbact project and Scale Up. And today she will share us insights in how Turku is engaging citizens in the SUMP implementation. Over to you, Anna-Kaisa.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. Nice to be here. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you a bit about our actually the SUMP implementation process and how we engaged our citizens in implementing the measures in our SUMP. But first, just a few words about the background. So we are a medium-sized city in the southwest coast of Finland. We have approximately 210,000 inhabitants, and we are fastly growing. So actually the traffic is a big subject to us because with a growing city also the cars are a growing in number. We have strong strategic targets considering the sustainable modes of travel, and our first really a city SUMP was approved only in December 2024. Engaging citizens in a really structured and meaningful way has been a challenge for us, and I guess for many cities as well. And we do engage them in strategic or in planning strategies, but actually when we start to implement, the dialogue is not that continuous, or we don't have this kind of in-depth discussion with the citizens. So we had a need to complement all the existing data and planning processes within the city to better understand different groups of residents hear from their everyday experiences and needs and perceptions from our mobility services, for example, and the environment as well. So as part of the SUMPs for BSR project, we organized this citizen panel to gather opinions and experiences related to different themes from SUMP. Here's actually the kind of like a process for the citizen panel. So we wanted to set up this citizen panel with which we could review the current SUMP related measures and go to in-depth discussions. So we recruited different participants from different kind of organizations. So they would represent actually their organization, such as from the youth panel or from the seniors or the disabled ones, entrepreneurs, cyclists. We have all sorts of different organizations around them. So we wanted their representatives to our citizen panel. We organized 5 meetings during 2025, where we tested different mobility services with our city's experts and planners present, and wanted to hear the development needs. And those subjects for the meetings were walking conditions. Then we reviewed the city bikes and electric scooters. Also, we had a big reform of our public transport lines just a year ago. So we wanted to hear their opinions on that. Also, we had air quality and noise in the city as a topic. This was a very interesting and important one, I would say. But also the digital mobility and digital guidance and transport services, how we manage them digitally and how residents feel about them. The stakeholder management, I would say, is of highly important that we actually have a very approachable coordinator and who is easy to reach. So the communication throughout the way, this was a period of 1 year. So the engagement, long-term engagement of the stakeholders is many times a challenge. So the coordinator was also, it was important that they would the stakeholders would really feel heard, and like the stakeholders would know that the coordinator is actually taking the things further and so forth. As the outcome, we got a lot of qualitative data and information about the residents' needs and experiences, and I will next give you some insights of those 5 thematics, and then also our learnings from the whole process. So here are some insights from the different themes. I won't go through all of them, but just to give you a glimpse, and you can go them through later on from the slides. For the walking tour, they had a walking through tour in the city, and they highlighted again how the accessibility should better be taken into consideration, and also the physical signage in the city. And this is kind of what we all already also know, but it's usually we don't have enough human resources for work on that. About the city bikes and electric scooters, city bikes are very well taken into use in the city of Turku, but but for example, they had some critical insights for the payment options. That was also an important note from those one. Then from the next slide, I already said about air quality. It was very important because it's not that it's kind of unfamiliar topic within the citizens, and we could actually make better use of all the data that we have from the air quality and the noise and how the mobility is related to that. So kind of educate also our citizens on that subject. Also from the digital services, we have the service map, which has all of our or many of our mobility services, and there are real-time information on that, but citizens are still not really much aware of that. So we still need to increase the awareness of that the service map. Lessons learned from the process all in all. The discussions with the panelists provided real good insights and perspectives for these different themes. And it was a really good opportunity for the dialogue between residents and experts, and also with these different representatives from different groups of citizens within the city. The participation in the panel declined towards the end of the process, which actually highlights the challenges of maintaining the engagement over this longer period. For the future, participants maybe could be also selected from different districts of the city, so it would probably or could make the subject more personal and tangible for the participants, and it would be like get more into depth from the specific area point of view also. The future of this citizen panel and its development are still under consideration and discussions. We are reviewing the experiences from this citizen panel organized, and personally, I really hope that we will get to continue on that one. It's a very, very important. About the replicability of this citizen panel, it really provided a structured way for us to gather these in-depth insights and to facilitate the dialogue between citizens and experts. This approach could be used in other cities if there is a need to better understand the user perspectives of the mobility topics, or have more interactive discussion and these qualitative insights to complement other data. What is important to consider, though, is that, of course, it requires staff resources to go through with this thorough citizen panel. And also it's important to consider that if you have the more structured panel, that how to engage participants. Also in the future, I would say for us and for other cities, it's important to really get the different groups together, so they also have the ability to learn from each other from different aspects of users. Okay, thank you. This was our experiences.
Thank you, Anna-Kaisa. I have one question. Do you have some kind of follow-up with the residents or with the specialists that were part of the panel, kind of how their feedback has been taken further, or is it being used? Are there some developments? Do you have some kind of idea how to follow up on the panel?
I'm not working myself on this topic, but what I heard is that they are now actually in the process of reviewing the insights and everything, and they are making the decisions. But I'm pretty sure that they will also, if this will continue or not, they would need to contact also the panelists so far, although they had already been thanked for the engagement and so forth, but it's important to keep them informed also from the future perspective.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Any other questions? It seems no. I want to remind that we have actually gathered nice case studies, both about this SUMP citizen panel, but as well about Gdynia's pilot in SUMPs PSR, which was about ICT solutions for engaging residents and decision makers in the transformation of the mobility hub. So next we will hear from Inga Pelša from Riga Energy Agency. About one very interesting tool that you can use, participatory toolkit, that was developed in the project Hub Mobile a few years ago, but still serves as a useful library for finding out engagement methods and formats. So yes. I will give the word to you, Inga.
Yes, hello everyone. Good day from Riga. I'm here to present Participatory.tools, which was a tool developed in the Hub Mobile project, which it finished already 5 years ago. So it was a project implemented by 8 project partners, Aalto University as a lead partner, KTH University from Stockholm, UBC and ATL company from Estonia, as well as 4 pilot cities, Baltic Sea port cities, Turku, Hamburg, represented by Altona district, Tallinn, and Riga, represented by Riga Energy Agency. We are a municipal agency of the city. The aim of the project was to provide holistic approach to planning, implementation, optimization, and management of mobility solutions for Baltic Sea port cities. And of course, the stakeholders' involvement and improving stakeholder processes has been as important part of it as it is still today, as I heard from your discussions. How did we come to develop those participatory tools? Originally, we were responsible for the improving stakeholder processes, and when meaning stakeholders, it was main focus was of course on city residents, because that's the most important part, to develop the solutions and plan the city development together with the residents. And also the Aalto University was responsible for co-creation with residents for particular mobility solutions. We started the work and everything was planned and very well, but then now it seems so long ago, but then it was very unexpected, and the COVID crisis hit our project. We were the generation of projects that was even we had to prolong the project implementation, because there were some moments where we were uncertain whether we can continue and what shall we do. So, as I said, originally our aim was to guide partner cities through the stakeholder involvement processes and to assist them in creating the plans, how to best implement it, to share the best practices of partner cities and review them, and to produce stakeholder involvement guidelines as a report. And of course, the participatory urban planning is largely, it's almost exclusively face-to-face process. At least it was so at the times. Today, the Teams and Zooms are a daily routine for our work, but at that time, so it was, mostly unknown for municipalities. So first we just got the gathering restrictions. Then we realized that it's gonna stay for a long time, and we will have to find out other ways how to continue work and how to involve our residents differently, remotely, so to say. Okay, so what did we do? We decided, we came together with the Aalto University and decided to look for remote ways to meet and develop ideas and proposals. And at the end, we created a website or web-based tool where our experts researched different ways of involving people, both classic face-to-face methods and also digital ones. They analyzed and at the end they created a tool. So what it is an online repository of different methods, face-to-face and remote ones, and digital and analog tools. It also provides selection possibilities for tools that are corresponding to specific cases and needs. As you said earlier, that the stakeholders are not a monolith group and they're very diverse needs and approaches. So, and we have all methods described with unified descriptions so that you can choose the methods and compare them and select the ones which are best suitable. And as a cherry on top, you have also a partner city case studies with the practical implementations and practical ways how to do it. So we were very proud at the times, and we said that it's probably the best resource for city practitioners in the world. So, but we would like to have it very much to continue to be developed further and continued. And I'm very happy that you found these tools and are interested to learn about more about it. So, as I said, it's a possibility to select the methods, to compare them, to mix them in combinations. But behind that, there is also a lot of methodological material. There is also the research documentation. There is methodological information about all the methods, about the ways how the selection has been made, about the fourfold method, how to choose the best, the most corresponding communication way with the stakeholders and residents, and also some other materials. So, as I said, you can pick a method from the tool according to number of participants, to geographic or thematic scope. The planning phase, you are within the development process. The level of required engagement or the existing engagement, the mode of communication, and all other criteria. So you have a guidance about the process as such. So you have a guidance how to get to know the stakeholders, how to define the goals you want to achieve is involving them, how to engage, and very importantly also how to evaluate the engagement process. And to the tools itself, so it's number 3 on the selection possibility. So you have 16 digital methods and 16 face-to-face methods, all described in uniform descriptions. You can click on the method to read more. So they all have information about the best suitable group size, about the geographical scale, how to use the method, what is the level of involvement there, what is the mode of communication, what skills and resources are required? What can be the outcomes? What are the strengths and weaknesses of each method? And different tools, and also reference to further readings and methodological documentation. So, and also the tool provides an algorithm how to select and combine the methods. So what else there is? There is also a description of regulatory and financial framework for participatory processes in 4 pilot countries. And and as I said, description about the process as such. So here you'll see you have context for planning, participatory planning in Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Germany. Here you have presentations and recordings for all the partner city workshops and case studies. Very, very detailed processes, what they did, how they did. So I really invite you to go through. It's very, very invaluable source of information. And for the formal result, we also produced a report, which can be found on the website of the project, where the project outputs are published. So, and report consists, of the tool itself, which can be found at the website Participatory.tools. And also there is a report about the detailed stakeholder engagement plans in each of the project pilot city. So I referred many times to the experts that who did it. So who are we? So we were a team of experts from Riga Energy Agency and also from the Department of Built Environment of the Aalto University. So you can get to know us by going to the tools site and see us. There are also linked contacts for us, and you can reach out and ask questions or invite for future collaboration if you are interested. And at the end, allow me some subjective views from today's perspective. So I think some of you already told that it's a time-taking process. So it's so you have to be aware of resources and capacity you have for the stakeholders engagement processes. Yeah. You have to allocate time and allow time to learn, to talk, to explain, and to think over. So nowadays, we also, with introduction of these modern communication tools and also possibilities to work remotely in Teams and Zooms, we tend to be very time efficient, but we do not allow us time to reflect on things. And sometimes maybe we have to reconsider the decisions we have made, but it takes time. You have to allow that. Also, today's changing reality probably requires some other approaches than we used to have before. So do seize the benefits of international cooperation projects, because that's how you can develop ideas that probably in daily work you wouldn't have time to do, or you wouldn't have a mandate to do so. When preparing for this presentation, we were also thinking that this tool we were very proud. It was very revolutionary in a way 5 years ago, but today we have whole new ways of communication channels. So the reality has changed. So probably we or someone would have to look again into the participation tools and reconsider them and adapt to the new realities. Also looking into the whole AI potential that we have nowadays, though keeping in mind that also has some weaknesses regarding data protection, fake content, and news falsifications, and so on. And then, digital versus face-to-face. I would like to say that I'm still very much to face-to-face processes, and I'm convinced that participation or participatory processes are face-to-face, the most efficient. And of course, it's generational in a way. Me and colleagues of my generation are sometimes feeling kind of digital fatigue, but then I see the younger colleagues that are just like fish in the water with all the digital meetings, and they prefer to that. So I think we have to find a way for everyone to get involved and look for variety and different methods. But still, here's just the pictures from some old-fashioned face-to-face working style, which is still very, very efficient for co-creation and co-development. So thank you. That's about it, what I wanted to share with you today.
Thank you, Inga, for a great presentation and also great concluding remarks. I think they work well to conclude this workshop. I totally support you in that we still need, like, despite all the nice tools we have, like the modern ICT tools, we still need the face-to-face engagement as well. So I support you in that. Thank you so much. I have only one more thing, unless there are any questions from the audience to Inga.
I do
Are
have
there?
one
Okay,
question.
Justyna.
Monica, like really enjoy the tool you developed and we are familiar. I have an extra question. Maybe have you discussed, I don't know, like boundaries of the budget which needs to be allocated from the project to the engagement part? Because some of the sources we would say that you need to allocate around, like 5% of overall budget to engagement. Did you reach upon that topic, or maybe from your own experience?
No, I don't recall that we would discuss on that, and I think it is very tricky question because it very much depends. The budget depends on the resources you allocate or the methods you choose, and face-to-face meetings are more costly than remote, of course. But I think that's. Yeah, I think it depends also on the project, to what extent the project is about the co-creation and co-development. And I wouldn't give any fixed percentage. I would actually dislike if such a percentage would be put into some program guidelines, for instance. I think it very much depends on the project itself, yeah, the content.
Okay, thank you.
But as I said, you need it's for sure you need the budget resources, and you need also staff resources. Budget is not only the only constraint. So also the staff hours you can put, especially for municipal employees. We very often face this that you are required to do so many other tasks that the involvement in such a time-consuming things may be considered less efficient or rational sometimes. So this is something we have to be aware and have to always put forward this argument.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you very much, Inga. It was a great presentation. And as we're getting closer to the end of this workshop, I have one kind request to you all, that I can see that there were many participants, many attendees who took part in several of our training program events, and I hope you could support us by filling in a survey on increased institutional capacity. This, of course, would help us to demonstrate the impact of our project, how we have supported you in your local challenges, but also you would be able to contribute to demonstrating the impact of the Interact Baltic Sea Region program and eventually maybe to EU funding as that's being shaped at the moment. Also demonstrate how we can contribute with these international projects to the macro regional goals, like for instance, this EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. So we would definitely greatly value your answers to this survey and your input. So please take a few moments to fill in the survey. My colleague will shortly share you the link, and you can find it here. We will also be sending it afterwards in the email. But it has come time to thank you. Thank all our speakers, first of all. Thank you all our participants of this workshop. This was indeed the last training event we're organizing. I hope you have enjoyed the journey with us. And we hope to see many of you in Gdynia in September. And with these words, I want to thank everyone for joining and wish you a very good day.